Hey guys and girls, Blunty here. You're currently watching some Resogun gameplay here, which just before we jump in, I want to say is a truly superb game, and one of the best bullet hell shooters I've played in a very long time. And if you own a PS4, or are planning to own a PS4, and you don't get this game, you are stupid. That's all there is to it, really. So, on the left here, you're seeing what the PS4 records itself with its built-in game recording trickery, and on the right is what I recorded externally using a HDMI capture device. Now, a couple of days ago, I posted a video comparing the Xbox One's game DVR function with externally recorded game footage, and it showed a noticeable difference. Well, at least to those viewers who watched it in 1080p at full screen, it showed a noticeable difference. I thought the game DVR stuff on the Xbox One was just muddy crap. But the general consensus of you guys was that even though most acknowledged that the internally recorded game footage on the Xbox One was a bit crappy, it was still well within the good enough range for its intended purpose of just sharing goofy or amazing little clips of cool stuff that happens in game, and that's a fair enough call. But a lot of you also wanted to know how the PS4's similar built-in game recording function stacks up. But there is a problem with that right now, because the PS4 doesn't let me directly access the files and pop them up on a cloud drive like the Xbox One does, and it doesn't even let me upload the recorded files anywhere but friggin' Facebook, and I will not under any circumstances choose to use that damn site. The second problem is the HDMI output from the PS4 is currently running under HDCP, that's copy protection, and it does so at all times, even during gameplay where it doesn't actually need to be running, meaning that direct capture of the game footage with any of my capture devices is impossible. At least for now. PlayStation have promised to patch it in so we can use our recording devices, but for now it just doesn't work. But I have figured out a bit of a workaround so I can actually capture both the live game footage and then capture the playback of the gameplay video file the PS4 generates itself. It's a bit MacGyvered, but it works well enough to illustrate the differences between the internal and external recordings. And, as you've been seeing, at least if you've been watching in one of YouTube's HD settings at full screen, you should be seeing, while there are some obvious compression artifacts in the PS4's file, if you go looking for them, look at the smoke and clouds in particular for instance, and you'll find some, but overall, it's a much cleaner video than the Xbox One's very aggressively compressed low bitrate files are. And compared to the recording of the direct feed, which should have little to no compression artifacts in it at all, at least except for whatever YouTube does to it, it's a noticeably closer comparison, and this is a very difficult game for video files to handle. There's lots and lots of fast motion and tiny details, which is kind of the worst case scenario for compressing a clean video. And again, it's a much closer match between these two than it was on the Xbox One versus an externally recorded file. And all things considered, once it gets to YouTube, at least once Sony lets us upload these files anywhere but goddamn Facebook, what slight artifacting there is won't really make much of a difference at all. And add that to the fact that the PS4 records the last 15 minutes worth of gameplay, not the 30 seconds to 5 minutes the Xbox One allows you access to, it puts it in a place to be much more useful to many more people. Though I do love the Xbox voice commands, the way I can just call out Xbox record that, and it does, and I have never even had to pause the game or even so much as move my hands to a different button on the controller. Meanwhile, the PS4 requires a separate button press to trigger the recording, and it's a button that's kind of flush with the controller, so you really kind of have to go looking for it, at least until you build the muscle memory to where it is. It's far clumsier for sure, but hardly what I'd call a big hassle. But if you need, or indeed want, 1080p footage, recording externally is still where you want to be, because the PS4, just like the Xbox One, records its own footage at 720p. The same thing goes for 60 frames per second footage. If you're intending to invest in the ExtremeCap U3 I just looked at, which will capture 1080p at 60 frames per second, you'll be absolutely fine there, but from what I can tell, the internal recording seems locked to 30 frames per second, which kind of makes sense. So there you go. I hope this has been useful to you guys out there who've been asking me to do this, and at least interesting for those of you who didn't. Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I'll catch you next time.